Okay, so good afternoon. So let's continue with our discussion in the third unit, which is about the stability of control systems. In our last lecture, we have talked about what stability is. The basic definition is about absolute stability, and it says that when a subject system is subjected to a bounded input, its output has to be bounded, and if the input tends to zero, output should also tend to zero. Okay, so for a system to be stable, we have seen that if all the poles of the system lie in the left half of the plane, then the system is said to be stable. And if any pole is on the right hand side, the system becomes unstable. Remember this again, I'm enforcing here. All poles on the left hand side stable, any pole in the right hand side unstable. Okay, and if the poles are on the imaginary axis, the system is said to be marginally stable. Now this is okay, but if I give you a system which is having, let's say, which is of, let's say, fifth order or sixth order, how are you going to find out the stability? Are you going to calculate all the poles? Poles means you will have to find out all the roots of the characteristic equation or the denominator polynomial. And in that case, if it is, let's say, sixth order polynomial, how are you going to find out? It is obviously extremely difficult and cumbersome to, or at least it is quite time consuming to find out the roots of a higher order polynomial. So it is not always possible to find out the stability of the system analytically just by finding out the poles of the system. Okay, so in that case, what we do, there is a method given by Routh-Hurwitz, and it is named after those two, Routh-Hurwitz stability criterion, and it determines the stability of the system without actually finding the pole locations. Remember this, it does this, it finds out the stability without actually finding the pole locations. Okay, what this criteria says is the number of roots of the characteristic equation with positive real parts, means on the right hand side of the imaginary axis, is equal to the number of changes in sign of the first column of the Routh array. So in this Routh-Hurwitz stability criterion, what is required is we have to create a Routh array, which we are going to see in our further slides. And if there are n number of sign changes in the first column of that array, then that many roots are on the right hand side. So if n roots are on the right hand side, then what it means, that the system is unstable, because for stability there should not be any root on the right hand side. What it means again is there should not be any sign change in the Routh-Hurwitz as per the Routh-Hurwitz criteria in the Routh array. Okay, so what is this Routh array? So that is the first step which in the Routh-Hurwitz stability criterion, that we have to find out a data table called as Routh table or Routh array, and from that table we are going to interpret how many closed loop poles are on the left hand side, on the right hand side, and on the imaginary axis, that we are going to estimate. Okay, now in order to understand how the Routh array is formed, we must take a look at this example, generic example. Of course, I have not taken any numbers particularly so as we create some formulae for that. Okay, so the polynomial, the denominator polynomial here is a4s raised to 4 plus a3s cube plus a2 square plus a1s plus a0. So what is it? A4, A3, A2, A1, A0. These are all the, what are these? These are all the coefficients of the denominator polynomial. Remember that the ns, the numerator polynomial, does not play any role in stability, right? For finding out absolute stability. This we have also seen earlier also, that only Only poles are going to determine the stability of the system. Okay. Now, based on these coefficients, first two rows of the Routh array are obtained. And this table, actually, you can take a screenshot of this and keep it with you. This table shows the formulae, how the Routh table is calculated. So what we do actually is, when solving the problem, we will draw a line like this and a line like this. Okay. And these are the powers of S. What is the highest power of S here? It is S raised to 4 in the characteristic equation. So we start from S raised to 4, then S cube, and then S square, S raised to 1, S raised to 0, like that. The first two rows, this one and this one, are taken directly from the characteristic equation coefficients, and those are starting with the coefficient of this S raised to 4. What is the coefficient of S raised to 4? It is A4, right? You can see here S raised to 4 has coefficient A4, so we take it here. S cube coefficient is A3, so we take it here, and then we do it like this. We take coefficients in this sequence. Okay, you can see, am I right? A4, A3, A2, A1, A0. And if the coefficients are finished, then we write it using 0. Okay. You can also look at that in another way, that every row has alternating coefficients, A4, then A2, then A0. And here A3, then A1, then none, like that. So in any way you can remember this, what we have done. You can keep the zigzag path in your mind, or you can write the coefficient alternatingly. So this is about the first two rows, and the next rows are calculated using the formula. Now you can see here, what is this? This is a determinant, right? This is a determinant. I will again take red color here. Here, this is a determinant of some values. What are those values? You can see here, A4, A3 means the elements of the first column are taken as it is, A4, A3, and these are taken for all the calculations. These are fixed. For all the calculations, these are fixed here. You can see, right? And what is the second column of the determinant? It is the next row. So for this element, the first column is constant, first column is fixed, the second column is taken from the next column. Okay, so A2, A1 here. For this second number, that is B2, calculating B2, which is in the second column of the Routh array. So for that, we are going to take elements from the third column of the above row, above two rows actually, right? Likewise, we are creating simple determinants, 2 by 2 determinants. So what are their values? How do you calculate determinant? It will be A4, A1, right? A4, A1 minus A2, A3, right? And everything has a negative sign because this is here, divided by A3. Likewise, you have to just solve the determinant and you get the value of this B1, B2, likewise. When there is nothing in the end, you just write 0. So obviously this will be 0. Okay. In a similar fashion, further values are calculated. So for C1, you take just next the above two rows. For calculating any row, you have to consider only the above two rows, just two rows above that particular row. So here, for calculating the S1 row, we have to take S3, S2 rows. So what are the values? S3 has A3 and S2 has B1. So A3, B1. Just take a look at this. A3, B1, right? A3, B1 like this. A3, B1 like this. And the second column is always the taken from next column. So what is that? A1, B2, right? So A1, B2 goes here, A1, B2, likewise. Here, everything is 0, so 0. Where is this 0 coming from? The 0 is coming from here, like this. Okay, so in this way, we are going to form the Routh array until s raised to 0 row, until s raised to 0 row. Automatically, there will be only a single element in the final row. There will be a single element in the final row because every time the size of this row is going to get reduced because of this 0, 0, 0 coming in at the end. Okay, so this is how we create the Routh array or Routh table. Now, once this Routh table is created, okay, once this Routh table is created, we apply what? We apply the interpretation. What is that interpretation? How many sign changes are there? Now, what does that mean by sign change? So here you can see in here on this column, okay, A4, A3, B1, C1, D1, right? What are the values? A4, B1, sorry, A4, A3, B1, C1, and D1. These are the 5 values in 5 rows. So you have to check, these will be numbers obviously, and you have to check their signs. Okay, some will be positive, some could be negative, or all could be positive, all could be negative. Any case is possible. So just check how many sign changes are there. For example, if these are the signs of A4, A4, A3, B1, C1, D1. Okay, let's say A4 is positive, A3 is positive, B1 is negative, C1 is positive, D1 is positive. So how many sign changes do you see here? Anyone? How many sign changes are there? Sign changes means positive to negative or negative to positive. These are called sign changes. Okay. So here you can see, here it was all positive. Then here it changed to negative. So one sign change. And from negative here again it changed to positive. So this is the second sign change. Okay. So there are, and then further there are same signs. So there are 2 sign changes in the first column. So if this is the case, how many roots are on the right hand side? There will be 2 roots on the right hand side. The number of sign changes. If there are 2 sign changes in the first column, it means that 2 roots are on the right hand side. Means where? On this side. Okay. So what does it imply? Whether the system is stable or unstable? Anyone? The system is stable or unstable?
Unstable.
Right. The system is unstable because there are 2 roots on the right hand side. Correct. So this is the basic form of Routh array and Routh-Hurwitz criterion. But while calculating the Routh array, this array, you will come across certain situations. For example, the standard case or no complication case, that there are no elements in the first column which is 0. Means all the first column elements are non-zero. Now why this is important? Because you can see here the first column element. Which are the first column elements here? You can see, I will just circle them here. A3, B1 and C1. These are first column elements, right? Here you can also see here A3, B1 and C1. Why it is important that this should be non-zero is because we are going to calculate the next row based on their values, and we are going to divide by these numbers, right? Everywhere the division is by the first element of the row. Division is by the first element of the row. I have encircled all those in green. So if this is 0, the value will be infinite. And in that case, we don't get correct representation of the Routh table. And therefore, these kind of cases have to be dealt with in a separate way. So we will see those separate ways. What are those? So that is called special case 2 or a case 2 or special case 1. In some books you can find uh, any kind of discussion on that. Okay, so the case 1 is standard case where no element in the first column is 0. So Routh array calculation is straightforward. But if there is a 0 in the first column and some other elements are non-zero, then what to do? That has to be dealt with separately. And there can be a possibility that entire row is 0. So obviously if entire row is 0, the next row calculation will also result in some improper values, and that also has to be dealt with separately, and we are going to see all these things in our coming slides. So let's take the standard case. This is an example system: s cube plus 6x square plus 12s plus 8 equal to 0. This is the characteristic equation. Remember, you should be now clear about the terms characteristic equation or transfer function, denominator polynomial, or likewise, because these are the same things. So we have to create its Routh array, and that comes like this. Now how is it like this? You can see here s cube row and s square row. We are taking it from directly from the polynomial. So what is the coefficient here? This is 1. So it goes here, and 12 goes here. Okay, alternatively. And 6 comes here, and 8 is here. Okay, this 0 is just for reference for calculating. Now how is this element calculated? Is it correct? The denominator, the determinant is 1, 6, 12, 8. Okay, this is the determinant. You give negative value, negative to that, and divided by 6. So now calculate what is the value. Yes, anyone? It will be 72 minus 8 divided by 6. So which is equal to 64 by 6. Right? That is what is written here. And this value is similarly calculated for this. How is the determinant going to be? Minus of 6, 64 by 6, 8, 0, and divided by what? 64 by 6. Right? The first element is going to divide. So what is this value going to be? It is going to be 8. That is right, right? This minus this, this minus this divided by this. Obviously this is 0 only, so it is going to be only 8. So now we have this array. So what is the status of stability? Whether this system is stable, unstable, or what? Marginally stable, whatever.
Stable system, sir.
Right? This is a stable system. Why we are saying it's stable? Because the first column, look at the first column here. These values are all positive. All these values are positive. There is nothing negative value in the first column, right? All the values are positive. So the system is now clearly it is a stable system. Okay. So that's what I have written here. Let's take this example. Can you try to solve this? Everyone, can you try to solve? Yes, let's take the Routh array. It will be like this. Is it right? 1, 1, 2, 24. So 1, 2, 1, 24. And the determinant will be minus 1, 1, 2, 24, right? Divided by 1. So what is this value? it will be 24 minus 2, it is 22. And here it will be a negative. Okay. So, and the next value will obviously be 24 in a similar manner. You can calculate that also if you want. 1 minus 22 and here 24 0 divided by minus 22. Okay, so this will come out to be 24. Okay, so in this case, how many sign changes we can see here? Here, this is a plus, this is a plus, this is a minus, and this is a plus. So there are 1 and 2. There are 2 sign changes. So what it indicates? There are 2 poles or 2 roots of this characteristic equation in the right hand side of the S-plane, and therefore the system is unstable. Okay, this system is unstable, right? Is it difficult, guys? It is quite straightforward, at least when we get no zero in the first column. Okay, we don't need to find out the roots. We don't need to find. Yeah, I'm back. There was a power failure, so I got disconnected. Okay, so in this case, you can see there are 2 sign changes, so therefore the system is unstable. So as you can see, this is quite straightforward to find out the stability without actually calculating the roots or without actually calculating the poles of the system. Okay. However, you will not be presented with that simple of a problem in exams. Some additional thing you have to do. Now, for example, in here it is given a question, an equation or characteristic equation, and what is asked is you have to find out the range of k, this k. Okay, we have to find out range of values of k for which the system will be stable. Now, what we have to do in this case is we have to find out the Routh array, calculate the Routh array, and obviously we cannot get absolute values in the Routh array. There will be some terms with k in that. And then we have to apply the condition for stability, that is the zero, that is no sign changes in the first column. So let me show you how it will be done. Okay, for example, here the coefficient is 1, then this 3 goes here, this 3 goes here, and this is a complete coefficient. Do not get confused with, many of the students get confused in this kind of problems that they write 1 here and write k here, which is not the case. This is wrong. Why? You can see k is a system parameter. It is not a coefficient. It is not a separate coefficient. Actually, 1 plus k. This itself is a coefficient of what power? Of s raised to 0 power. You can see here, right? S raised to 3, s raised to 2, s raised to 1, and then s raised to 0. And s raised to 0 coefficient is what? S raised to 0 coefficient is 1 plus k. So we have to take that whole thing as a coefficient. And then you just simply apply the same formula for calculating the Routh table, right? So first determinant is this one, 1, 3, 3, 1 plus k divided by 3, and okay. So this is how the array will come out, the first determinant, and then you get the value of okay, let me write 1 plus k minus 9 divided by 3, and everything will have negative sign. So it becomes 8 minus k divided by 3, right? And similarly, this value will be calculated. So 1 plus k. So now we have to apply the condition for stability. What is asked? The question is, we have to find out range of k for which system is stable. Now for stability, what is the condition? All these values should be positive, right? Because 1 and 3 are positive, there should be no sign change. It means that these two values should also be positive. Means what? 8 minus k by 3, 8 minus k by 3 should be greater than 0, and 1 plus k should also be greater than 0. What it means? Right? It means that 8 minus k should be again greater than 0, right? 8 minus k should be greater than 0. Means what? K should be less than 8. Am I right? Which indicates k should be less than 8. And here k should be what? Greater than -1. Right? Many students make mistake in this case. Many students make mistakes in this last step, because I have been checking question papers for of our students as well as for university for the last 4 or 5 years, and I have found that students make mistake when combining these conditions. They write the Routh array correctly, but at the end they make some mistakes. So please, these are simple things. These are equality and inequality things that we have seen in school days. Okay, so finally, what are the two conditions? K is greater than -1 and k is less than 8. So means -1 less than k less than 8. Now see, you apply this condition. Okay, you take any value between -1 and 8. Let's say 5. If you take 5, what will be this value? 8 minus 5 is 3 upon 3. So it will be 1. And if you take here 5, it will be 6, right? So first column is all positive and the system will be stable. If you take any value out of this range, let's say -2. If you take -2, what will happen? 8 minus -2 means 8 plus 2, 10 by 3. So this, let's say this will be 10 by 3. But what about this value? 1 minus 2, so -1. So there will be one sign change and the system will be unstable, right? So in this way, we have to solve. I will just remove some of this so that you can read it. Okay. So in this way, we have to combine the test conditions. We have to combine what are the given conditions here. That is the first one and second one. We have to just check the first column. We don't need to worry about anything else in the later columns. Okay. Only first column has to be checked. And from that only, we can find out the range of system parameter K. Okay. I hope this is clear now. So I'll just give you this example and you just do it on your own later when you after the lecture ends. Okay. Remember, this is also one way of expressing the system. Here g of s is given, h of s is given 1. So we have to first find out the closed loop transfer function. Do not just apply it on the open loop transfer function. Okay. Remember this step. We have, when this Routh-Hurwitz criteria is going to be applied, we have to apply on the characteristic equation, means the denominator polynomial of closed loop transfer function. Okay. Now let's come to the case 2, where there is a 0 in the first column, but there are non-zero elements in that row. Okay, first element of the row is 0, but some elements are there which are non-zero. Okay, so what is done is the 0 is replaced by a very small positive number epsilon. Okay, this, instead of writing 0 there and calculating, that 0 is replaced by a small positive number epsilon, and the calculations are performed. Okay, epsilon is kept as it is for the time being for calculating the further elements of the rows. Okay, and once the array is completed, then this value of epsilon is allowed to approach 0. Means what? We simply take the limit of that particular first column elements by allowing the value of epsilon to become 0. Okay, then what happens? We get certain values. We get whether that first element is positive or negative, because that is what is only required for us. We need the sign of the number. We don't even need the value of that number, right? For example, whatever was here, this 8 minus k, or this 3, or whatever we have calculated, like this minus 22, 24, the value does not have any significance. What is important is only the sign of that number. So that sign of that number is only we are interested in. Okay, so how to solve this? So this has to be done using an example only. So if I have taken this example again, s raised to 5 plus 2s raised to 4 plus 2s cube plus 4s square plus 11s plus 10. Now we have to begin in the normal way, s5, s4, s3, like this, and the elements 1, 2, and 11 alternating elements we have taken in the first row, and this remaining are taken in the second row, right? It is the same thing that we are following. It is not anything different. Okay, so the first two rows are taken from the characteristic equation, and then we calculate. So for why this epsilon is here, you can see the first determinant is like this: 1, 2, 2, 4. Okay, divided by 2. So try to calculate this. What you get? You get 4 minus 4, which is 0 actually. Okay, so the value you get here is 0. So if you keep 0 here, you cannot calculate c1, d1, anything, right? Because it will divide by 0 all the time. So what we do, instead of this 0, we replace this 0 by epsilon. Okay, and then calculate further numbers c1 and d1. So c1 is, you take the for calculating c1, what is it? 2 epsilon 4 and 6. So what is it? Divided by epsilon. So what do we get? See, 4 epsilon minus 12 divided by epsilon. So this is that value. Similarly, d1 is calculated. d1 comes out to be 6. We are not at all interested in the value. We are interested in the sign. Okay, am I audible, right? I am audible.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let's continue. So we are not at all interested in the value. What we are interested in is sign. So c1 is negative, d1 is positive, s raised to zero's element is already, it's a value 10. So there are two sign changes, right? From positive to negative and negative to positive. So there are two sign changes, means two roots of this equation lie on the right half plane, and therefore the system is unstable, right? So this is how we solve the case 2 type of problem. What is that case 2 type of problem? When there is a 0 in the first column of a row. Okay, for this type of problem also there can be a similar type of question where we have to determine the range of parameter k. Okay, in that case again we are going to perform the same things. Here it was 0, see, 1 1 1 1, so obviously the determinant is 0, right? 1 1 1 1, so this determinant is going to be 0, right? So instead of this 0, we replace by epsilon. We find out value of C1 and then go ahead. So C1 here is minus k upon epsilon. Okay. Now, if though we can say that there is a negative, it seems to be there is a negative sign, it doesn't really mean directly that it is unstable. Why? Because this k is a number. At this level I am talking about, I am not going here yet. At this first level, means the C1 level. Okay. From this itself, we cannot say that the system is unstable because k can be negative. If k is negative, this value will be positive, minus k upon epsilon. So this will become positive. So there will not be a sign change. Okay. So if k is less than 0, system may be stable. Okay, I am not saying it is stable, maybe. Why I am saying maybe? Because there is this last row also where there is a this value k, and in this case there is only k. If k is less than 0, means k is negative, right? If k is less than 0, it means k is negative. So if k is negative, this row will have first element as minus or a negative number, and in that case the system will again be unstable, right? So C1, based on C1, k has to be negative. Based on this last element, the s raised to 0 element, k has to be positive. Obviously it is not possible for k to be positive and negative at the same time, right? K can either be positive or k can either be negative, right? Therefore, when we combine these two conditions, means the C1 condition and this condition, when these two conditions are combined, it gets finalized that even if you put any value of k, the system will be unstable, right? You take an example. Let's say k is minus 2. So because of this particular last row, here it is only k. Because of this, if k is minus 2, system will be unstable because the first two and first four elements are positive, right? If k is positive, then this C1 will become negative. So even if any value of k is substituted, the system will become, and it will be a system will be unstable. So that's how we have to find out the conclusion from our observations. Okay. Now you again take this as an example, just for just this. I will post this problem on the group also. Okay, you have to complete the Routh array as usual and find out about the stability. I will now move on to the last case, which is entire row is 0. Entire row in the Routh array is 0. Now what happens? If there is a 0 row, then even if you substitute by epsilon, other elements are 0, so the complete row will be 0. You cannot go further in the Routh table. And having a row of 0 in the Routh table is actually is because of there is an even polynomial which is a factor of the original polynomial. What is even polynomial? Even polynomial means where the powers are even, like this. Something like this. This is just an example. The powers of s are 4, 2, 0, right? Here it is s raised to 0. 4, 2, 0. This is even polynomial. Odd polynomial means what? If there are only coefficients of odd powers, even power coefficients are 0, like that. Okay, so therefore this case has to be handled in a different way, and this is actually a very different situation also, and that's what we are going to see. Just for example, how this situation may arise, I have taken this s raised to 5, 7. So what are the coefficients? 1, 7, 6, 42, 8, 56. So 1, 7, 6, 42, 8, 56. Now here you can see what I have done here. Instead of the 7, 42, 6, what I have done, can you say, can someone tell me what is done here? Can someone tell me what is done here? I have just divided by 7 to this whole row. Instead of 7, 42 and 56, it becomes 1, 6, 8. This is possible for all the every time whenever you are doing the route table analysis. If you can see that there is a common factor in a row, you can simply do that without causing any problem to the route array. The logic is what? These are actually polynomials equated to 0. So if you divide the polynomial by any constant, it doesn't change the characteristic of that polynomial. What happens is, because you have taken out some factor and divided by something, your numerical calculations become a little bit easier. Okay, now you can see s raised to 5 row and s raised to 4 row are 168. So whenever there is like this, you will find that there will be a row of 0 which will follow. There will be a row of 0. You can check 1, 1, 6, 6 divided by 1. This will be 0. The second element is 1, 1, 8, 8, right? Divided by 1, and this will again be 0. Whenever two elements of a determinant are same, we get 0, right? So now we have row of 0 which is in s raised to 3. Okay, so when something like this happens, we create an auxiliary polynomial. We create an auxiliary polynomial using the entries in the row just above. See, row of 0 came where? Row of zeros came in the s raised to 3 row. So we create a polynomial from the coefficients of s raised to 4. So what is that s raised to 4 polynomial? This one, 1, 6, 8, right? 1, 6, and 8. These are the coefficients in this s raised to 4. And we start from s raised to 4. So the polynomial is, this is the auxiliary polynomial PS, s raised to 4 plus 6s squared plus 8. Remember, the powers are one gap, right? They are not continuous powers. While writing the S5, S4, all these polynomials, we have taken one gap, right? We have left out one coefficient, or we have taken alternating coefficients. So similarly, the powers here have to be alternate powers. Okay. Now, once we create this auxiliary polynomial, we have to differentiate the auxiliary polynomial with respect to s, and then we obtain the next polynomial, or the polynomial having degree less by 1, right? So what is the derivative of this? 4s cube plus 12s plus 0, right? So we got this. Now you can see we have got a s cube polynomial. So we replace this here. Instead of these zeros, we have now, we will replace this using the coefficient that we just obtained, 4, 12, 0. So 4, 12, 0. So again, we can take out something common, right? We can take out 4 as common, and what remains is 1 and 3. Okay. So the finally what we get, s cube, we get the new row which is 1, 3, 0. Once we get a non-zero row, we can go ahead with calculation of the Routh array and then apply whatever the analysis we have studied until now. We can apply the same analysis to that Routh table. Okay. But it is not sufficient because what has happened? Okay. What has happened when we complete this table, what we get, the first column has no sign change. What it indicates, remember again now one thing, that sign changes, number of sign changes in the first column indicates number of roots on the right half plane. Okay. It does not actually say that all the roots are on the left hand side. Are you getting the point? जेव्हा पूर्ण कॉलम पॉझिटिव्ह असतो त्याचं मीनिंग असं आहे की उजव्या साईडला कुठलाही रूट नाही आहे. बट दॅट डझंट मीन की सगळे रूट डाव्या साईडला आहे. म्हणजे अर्थ काय निघतोय की देअर कॅन बी समथिंग विच इज ऑन द इमॅजिनरी ॲक्सिस. देअर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी दॅट something is on the imaginary axis. And specifically when there is this kind of auxiliary polynomial or when there is a row of 0, it is actually this kind of special case where there are elements on the or where there are poles on the imaginary axis, and that is why there was this row of 0. Okay, that's why the words that I have written here at the end, all the entries in the first column are positive. Hence, there are no right half plane poles. There are no right half plane poles. Means the system is not unstable, but it doesn't mean system is stable. The system can be marginally stable. Okay, and this happens when there is an entire row of 0, and that, as I said some time earlier, that it means that there is a purely even or purely odd polynomial which is a factor of the original polynomial. Just for example, I have again here given the even powers, even polynomial. Now when there is an even polynomial, the roots of this even polynomial are always symmetric about the origin. Now what does it mean? There can be three possibilities when there are symmetric roots. The roots can be real. So like this, A, the case A here. Okay, you can see the roots can be real, symmetrical. They have to be symmetrical. Symmetrical means mirror image. You fold the this plane along the origin, and you will get the poles will overlap. Okay, so if the case is A, the roots are symmetrical and real, so they can be on the real axis. But is this the case in our case, in our example now? No, because for this to be true, A would have been required to be in the right hand side, which is not the case. Second possibility is the roots are symmetrical and imaginary. Means like this, B, they can be symmetrical. They are symmetrical, right? Symmetrical about the origin, and they are imaginary. The third case is possible that roots are quadrantal. What does it mean? C. Look at these C's. Okay. For this root, there has to be a root here because of the complex conjugate property. And since we are talking about mirror image, this has to have a symmetrical root here. This symmetry. Okay. This has to be there has to be root pair like this, symmetric root pair. So therefore, if for a even polynomial, if there has to be a root complex, then it has to be having 4 roots like this at least, which is also not the case because in that case 2 roots would be on the right hand side. So what is the case for our example? Our example falls in case B, that roots are symmetrical and they are on the imaginary axis. So if roots are on the imaginary axis, what does it mean? The system is marginally stable, right? The system is marginally stable. Okay. So this is what I just explained. This is what I have written here again. Okay. This is one additional characteristic that you can note down, that when there is a case of all zero rows, then the row previous to the row of zeros, means what we have, the auxiliary polynomial row, it contains even polynomial, and that even polynomial itself is a factor of original polynomial. Means the if we analyze the even polynomial simply, then also we are going to get some roots of the original polynomial, and that way we are, based on the analysis of poles or the roots of the even polynomial, we can say that the same analysis follows for the original polynomial also. Okay. And the below table from the row of zeros is actually also a test of the even polynomial. So why I'm talking about this is because whatever I talked about here, this was about the even polynomial, and these are the roots of the even polynomial. So of these roots are also the roots of the original polynomial, and that's why all the analysis holds. Therefore